Hey, I'm Kevin from Q. This episode of the Q and Ask podcast got a motherfucking sponsor. Tactical Distributors, you're on fire. They carry all kinds of cool shit, man. I got my fancy tiger stripe summer pants here that everybody loves. I skate in those. I go to the club in those, pulling honeys all day. If I actually wore, anything to go in my pool or hot tub, it'd probably be these board shorts. They're also tiger stripe. Things like these Ultima boots, the maritime boot that are awesome. I don't even know what that means, but these are summertime hunting boots, thin sole, like skate shoes. They're lightweight, they breathe, they repel the water. A cool thing about Tactical Distributors. All right, number one, cool motherfuckers. Number two, their return policy, simple, easy. I never know because I got like the fat feet. So this could be a 10.5, could be an 11. I don't know. Order two sizes. I pick one, send it back. It's no trouble. Just get a little label, send it back, cost me no money. TacticalDistributors.com, promo code, I don't know what you call it, whatever code at the end, all right? Unpossible15. Unpossible15 gets you 15% off. TacticalDistributors.com, give them a look. I was just doing them audio, and I thought it was real charming that it was terrible on my phone. And then when I tried to listen to him, I was like, oh, my God, this sucks. But when we just started a marketing department last November. That's one of the first things he said. He's like, for not a lot of money, we can make this awesome. Mm-hmm. And I think he was right. Like, I love the video portion of it. But anyway.
When I said we would do this, it's because I didn't know it was video. Like
you didn't? Yeah.
This moneymaker is made for radio. Dude.
Oh, I figured you were so.
And now here
vain.
we go on video and shit. I'm like,
I figured you were so vain you would only do it.
That's why I have the mic so fucking close. It's like a COVID mask. You can only see the eyes.
Aaron demanded that it was video if he was going to do it.
Oh. I don't doubt that. He probably had a ride, or he probably had to have cheese and crackers and shit when he got here.
Which aren't here.
Oh,
but you did have jalapenos.
I'll let Ivana
for my
know.
Cinnamon rolls, so I'm good with that.
All right. Well, Adam, it's good to see you, man.
Good to be back.
Where you been?
Working.
Doing the actual work?
Yeah.
Yeah, how's that going?
It's great.
Yeah. You got
all is good. Yeah, all is well.
You got us a new building that people are dying to know where it is, and I haven't told anyone, and I think we shouldn't.
No, we're not ready for that.
Yeah. Well, so today we're here with a very special friend of ours.
Yep.
Who was at the grand opening party, launch party, he had a very good time. Aaron Hampton. How you doing, buddy?
Man, I couldn't be better. I'm so happy to be here with you. Appreciate the invite.
You look ecstatic.
Hey,
so,
I carry my joy on the inside. Can't show that shit off because then people try to take it.
They do. They try to take your joy. And JB, also Eotech, or Vudu, that's a part of Eotech. What's the deal?
That's our rifle scope line.
Okay, so if it's got magnification or glass, how do we say if it's not a holographic, it's Vudu?
So kind of just look at it as and for 20 plus years, everybody just called an Eotech, right? But that's actually our HWS.
Like Kleenex.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. But that's our holographic weapon sight. So Eotech is the brand, so a Ford, and the HWS was kind of our F-150, but since we only had one model, everybody just called it an Eotech.
HWS, that's the thing.
The holographic
the
weapon sight. That's this one right here. That's our
which I talk about
sight.
often.
So if that's the F-150, what's the Ford equivalent of the Vudu stuff?
So the Vudu stuff, I would say, is
Ford Raptor.
Still an F-150.
It's an F-150, but so now I would say that we take our. The reason I called it F-150 is because it's kind of our workhorse, right? Mm-hmm. So I would say it's a 250 now, and our Vudu is our Raptor. It's very high performance, and it's a great value. Like that's what we set off to do with Vudu.
I'm gonna get to that in a minute
to get you something really cool at a great value. But I mean, let's ease into this.
I know
Kevin.
You just told me something about that. Now I was shocked a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
But anyway, so known you for a long time. We're gonna do a podcast with just you tomorrow and tell war stories.
Oh, jeez. You're going to want to listen up for that. I mean, listen to this because there's going to be some good stuff here. But
Big
you gotta
Pimpin',
listen to that.
We're gonna discuss some great stories about Aaron Hampton.
You know, we just talked about you paying attention and remembering shit, and I was thinking about big pimping on the flight up here.
I knew
and
you were
went,
terrified.
Yeah.
I was gonna
You know what?
tell.
He's not going to remember that.
Oh yeah, I remember it. I remember the whole story.
You
Anyway,
have to tune into the next one for
So
that, though.
were you at
So-
the Q party at Q or
Yeah.
talking about the SHOT Show party?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that one.
Yeah, and that one, yeah.
Yeah.
he did, and he was the life of the party. Had a great time.
Yep.
Great time.
Great time.
I
I don't remember much of it.
I was gonna say I don't know how long it took you to recover, but all right. Well, you're at Eotech now,
I'm at Eotech now.
and you've been involved with them for a long time.
Long time. I guess at least 11 years.
Jesus.
Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe more
Yeah.
than that.
Well, what do you fellas do there?
Go ahead.
I'd love to give you
Actually,
look. I'd
That's
love
what
to
I
give
do
you
when
my
people ask me. I'm like,
He,
not
he
really
hasn't done shit. It's only been a week. It's like
Well-
he's still saying it's my first day.
Well, that's the shit part. Like my normal go-to response, as honest as it is, isn't appropriate. Sitting next to my new boss now, which is I do as little as possible.
He's going to find out after tomorrow's
it's
podcast.
hard.
No.
I already know.
Listen, it's
already
been
know.
11
Yeah,
years,
he
dude.
knows.
Like, no, but
okay. Well, maybe we should ask JB. What's
Ask
he
JB.
supposed to do? What's his what's his job title and description?
Well,
and in his last review, what's he? How'd that work?
I already have his review pre-written because I know
No
him so well.
surprises.
He's been awesome with us for the last, like you said, 11 years or so. He's been a consultant with us, and he helped.
Bring Vudu to life.
He brought
right.
Vudu to life. Yep. So we have a really a perfect mix. We had a product manager, Mark Miller. We had Aaron as a consultant that brought in a lot of extra experience to it, and then I do all of the marketing part of it. So it was a great team, but he brought a ton of experience and knowledge to really
Yeah.
launch that product.
He's
So
got a lot of good connections and resources.
he does. He really does. Yeah.
I
and
don't
even
like to throw him a lot of compliments. but
shooting and
that's true.
testing, and you're right, getting it in front of the right people to really kind of test it and tell you what's right and what's wrong. You know, he did all of that. So we found it was valuable. We're launching other things, more diversified products. Now that we're kind of away from L3, and we can get to that a little later. We're getting into a lot of other things. So
Yeah, you guys showed me some new stuff that we can't talk about, and I'm super excited.
Yeah. So he is brought on direct as a second product manager to not only help with this stuff, but also our diversified products, our extended stuff.
There is a long list of things I do not like about Aaron Hampton.
Oh, tell me about it. Jesus.
I mean, that's not true actually. But with product management, I would think you would be hard pressed to do better, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think we have a good one too, but I think what we've found is it's got to be a perfect mix of engineering mindset and then the marketing mindset. And Aaron that's exactly what he has. It's not too nerdy and knows everything.
You got to be able to speak both languages because you really are a liaison between so many different departments.
Yeah, and
right.
I want to get into your background more tomorrow, Aaron. We have a podcast, and we get to just like pick on one another. But I mean, where you and I met at the Army Marksmanship Unit, you know, just being around the greatest shooters in the world, and you being, I mean, number one, personable, a really smart guy, charismatic, but even an idiot can learn so much from those guys and understand what's needed, what's not, what's bullshit, you know, in fiction, what's necessary, and just, God, your tenure there, I don't know, how long were you there?
let's see, 13 years?
13 years,
Yeah,
Jesus. So 13 years with
12, 13 years, yeah.
And I want to get into it more tomorrow with you directly, but being with the best professional shooters in the world on a daily basis, what you can learn there. And you know, I've had a situation with someone who had been in a different but similar experience in a very elite situation for a long time. One thing I appreciate about Aaron, which I had a talk with this individual for, and I had to fire him from our company, was, and I told him, this is more or less a quote, it doesn't matter if you got $1 billion worth of ideas in your head if I can't get them out. And
That's right.
and like Adam was saying, I think Aaron is someone sort of like me. Like you can kind of see both sides and understand what can be successful for a commercial product, especially. Or it's easy with the military. You like listen to what they need, whatever. But a commercial product and trying to drive change and develop new product and understand what can be successful in the market and what's needed and everything from price point to feature set to quality. Because Aaron, you and I both know, and JB, I'm sure you do too, and Adam, your time in special weapons at SIG especially. But with the military optics, it's like I like a lot of Night Force stuff. They make great quality stuff. But it's like if I'm shooting with the guys that we knew in the military and we're at the range and we're prone and whatever, it doesn't matter if your gun weighs 20 pounds.
Right.
But when I'm hunting, I don't want that. And a lot of the stuff, for instance, in a Night Force is a lot of stuff that addresses military concerns that and I speak to it all the time, that are not a concern to me. I don't care if it's a self-defense situation. Like I keep a carbine in my bedroom, and I don't need it to withstand all the drop test, submersion, salt fog. I just need something that's going to work for me, inside my house or for this particular situation. So that's something where I think understanding the military products, especially when it comes to optics and things of this nature, and then a commercial product. Mm-hmm. And, you always have the crossover, like whatever the military's using, a lot of the commercial guys want to buy. But when it comes to practical stuff, like for me, for hunting, or me, I hunt with my honey badger, I hunt with the fix all the time. I just want what I need for me. I don't care what anybody else is using. I don't care what the Navy uses. And I think that's where it becomes important. If you want to drive forward with the product, there's only so many people. This was a great example. This scope you guys did years ago, 5 to 25. It's about half the size of anything else at the time. It's not the lightest scope in the world, but for one offering that magnification range, it's an incredible weight, but an incredible size. This is a terrific scope. If I'm just shooting at the range, I use this scope. But for me, for hunting, I want a little less than 5 power most of the time. Yep. And so that's like my only issue with that. But you guys, I think, came out of the gate with this. And
that originally,
you had the larger scopes
but
first.
It just took a long time to compress that light path and use a 5X erector to get there without having massive trade-offs.
Yeah, no sacrifice.
Everybody here does product development, right? So we know that you just can't have it all, and you can't have it all for cheap. But
you can definitely with optics, it's like land. You can't
what
get
you
it
pay
all,
for, right?
Yeah, or an automobile. You're not going to get something you take to the drag strip and you get groceries with, and
and if you do, you're going to pay for it, but it's still going to be a compromise in some places.
Well, this is a what do you guys call this? It's a 5 to 25.
It's a 5 to 25 super short.
Super short. Okay, so explain to me what is incredible, and I still think, how long ago was this? 7 or 8 years ago?
No, that's only been on the market for about 2 years.
Yeah, no way.
Really? Yeah, it's been on the market. Now, what you're confused about is that you received prototypes way before that. Okay. And you'll recall that those had some hewing issues because we were at that point, we were still trying to figure out what the right coatings were going to be so that we got the best. So we were dealing with a little bit of chromatic aberrations and a couple of other distortions as we were finalizing, and that's why we sent them out to you to get some, to get some time behind them to tell us what those problems were. So when you start to compress a light path, it's easy.
And when you say that, what do you mean? Like making
make
this shorter?
We're going to make it shorter.
Because most 25 power scopes, like the one over behind Adam, is probably 25. That's an old Leopold, which it's a great scope, but it weighs about twice as much, and it's about this long.
Right. And even if we grab that one and put it on the table and you took a look, like even with the fix, you've got very little rail space to add, ancillary devices once you put something that long.
Yeah, and this was just actually, to interrupt you again, Aaron.
No worries.
Was we went to Wyoming, and that was just shooting from the bench and shooting prone and shooting out to 1,500 meters.
Well, damn it, you can't just take it.
But you're right. We have a long top rail, and you don't have that much room. Watch the coffee cup. All right. Yeah. And that's a great optic. I like it, but I would never consider that for a hunting optic.
So, I mean, it's a fantastic optic. But
And what you guys did all day long, the only reason it's not my scope 100% of the time is because I like being able to dial down a little more.
Sure.
Yeah.
And we're addressing that, but, it's one of those things where you could have done the honey badger out of the gate really well, really, really fast.
Yeah.
But you took some time to do what was really difficult at the same time.
Yeah.
So we started the development process on this when we launched our first 3 scopes. But those 3 first focal plane scopes helped us to arrive at this. So making it this long with the larger objective, I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's been done before.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it's established. That's out
You
there.
already know the prescriptions. You already know what coatings are necessary.
And you know who the buyer of that is.
Exactly.
It's like that's just a certain set of folks that want that.
And so what we wanted to do was something that was difficult. We wanted to do the hard rate, but something that made sense. I mean, you look at AR-10 platforms, we're getting shorter and shorter and shorter, less and less rail space. At the time, our sister company made night vision equipment and thermals and clip-ons. And so we wanted something that even a guy with short arms and panda hands like me could not break your shooting position and be able to adjust the game and do the things that are important.
I mean,
to do.
you're right. Being behind that and even reaching the front of this scope,
Nearly
being
impossible.
behind
just to
for
flip
an
your
average
cover
size
up,
guy.
I need to do that before I'm in position
Yeah.
because otherwise I'm going to break position. So we wanted to do this, and it was really hard, and we had to learn a lot about the development of those light paths. So it took us a while to get it here, but now that we have that and we have that understanding, we're able to move forward into other directions and go more into pretty much exactly what you talked about earlier, which is how do we also meet up with that sportsman-oriented guy? Because I'll tell you, it's easy-ish to be a military product development guy.
Yeah, they'll tell you everything.
They tell you everything. Now, most of it's written in science fiction as opposed to fact. I mean, how long have they wanted a shot counter integrated into every? I mean, some of this stuff
you just put it in the grip. It's fine.
Yeah, and it's easy, right? And so there's that part. And I learned early on, starting a consulting company because I was smart. I wasn't smart enough. I was lucky enough to marry a wife that was smarter than me, and she was like, "Hey, you give away a lot of ideas, and one day you're going to have to retire, so you should formalize that stuff." And that's how we started the consulting company.
Oh, that's
Sidebar,
cool. Shout out to her. That's cool.
I had a crappy card back then, and it was from Office Max, and it still had the little perforations and stuff on it. And I gave one to Kevin, and he was like, "Oh, this is kind of a shitty card."
Did I really?
Oh yeah, total dick move. And then he gave me his card, and it was like ridiculously awesome, like super thick and all kinds of cutouts in different colors, and he
foil
and he directed me to Lindsay and was like, "Hey, she could tell you where you could get some good cards from." Like total dick move. So. I upped my game after that.
What he's trying to say is thank you.
But that was like 2008, I think, or 7 or 8. Anyway, we learned back then from dealing with a program with Remington that the one thing you can't do is chase that military marble. You can run it around, and eventually it's going to fall through a little hole because you're either going to lose that contract or it's going to get defunded or it's going to get put on hold. And if all you've done is focused on that requirement document, you're going to end up with a product that costs $1 billion and nobody can buy it.
Yeah.
So the way that we try to look at everything is we want to meet those end user needs, but we want to do it where we end up with a product that is marketable.
Yeah.
Something
Well, I
that
think
can
you
get
got
out
it there, and I've got a couple of questions on it.
All right.
And to
I don't have a cough
Delta.
button somewhere.
to add to the point you were making about chasing those contracts, if it does fall through, a lot of times you don't end up with a commercially viable product
right.
to make up
Yeah.
for
That's
it.
totally right.
Yeah.
We
So-
saw that with
As
a
we
lot
say,
of products.
it costs $1 billion and nobody else can buy it, or
I
nobody
mean,
else wants
it's,
to buy
it's
it.
the
Yeah.
thing. Like, you want to be in with the military, and you can be, but it's like everybody else. Like with your kids, you got to know when to say no. We ain't doing that.
Yep.
And so having someone that has that understanding, and I think your time in the military, understanding those guys and what's viable and what's not. Especially AMU, we can produce the greatest shooters in the world. They're going to win every gold medal, and we're going to develop stuff. But does that translate to the average guy and the average gun? Yeah, sometimes no. I've been through it with AMU a ton, whether it's ammo or just name the thing. It's like 300 Blackout. You guys had the best shooter, I think, in the world at the time of the AMU when we developed 300 Blackout. And he was winning every 3-gun competition. And so for us to prove that 300 Blackout was, could compete in that, all we did was get him to use 300 Blackout, and because he could have won with a 22 long rifle.
Sure.
So it is interesting to know, like, what's reality, what's marketing, and what you need to build. But a couple questions. So I understand the size if you're thinking about the SR-25 or the AR-10 gas guns. What drove the 5 to 25?
So when we were finally able to kind of get into that size constraints, so once we had figured out that package size, like what's the shortest we can get it, we ended up settling on a 5X erector because that's what we could cram in there and still get enough light gathering, not have a lot of trade-offs.
Yeah, the erector. So basically, people who are listening don't understand. It's like 5's the calm the fuck down, please. 5's the minimum power, so 5X erector. So 5 times 5, 25 gets you the maximum power.
Right.
So and that's nothing new.
No,
but
that's nothing new at all.
In this size.
It's
and so
difficult.
it's that, and it's that engineering, and it's the coating on the lenses that gets you to a price point.
There's that, and then so let's talk glass first.
Okay.
All right, because everybody likes to talk about how great their glass is and what this is and what that is. So, back in our day, because we're all a bit we're not quite millennials ever. We got millennial kids, right? So what you would hear about from a scope was always what the light transmission was. That was that key.
When I was a kid and got into guns, it was considered that the bigger the objective, the more light you get.
More light you get in. And
in my ignorance, that's what I heard and believed initially.
And it's not that that's not true. It's just that there's a lot more to that story. So what I always told when we first launched Vudu, and we had a lot of tribulations with the launch of Vudu, and we can talk about that later. It was just the state of our company at the time.
At the time, you guys are owned by L3.
We were owned by L3 Technologies, and we had just been, had a lawsuit from the government. And so when we launched this at SHOT Show, the consensus at SHOT Show was that we were there going, hey, look at this shiny thing. Let's not talk about this other thing, which wasn't true at all.
You talking about this?
Talking about that. It wasn't true at all, other than the fact that we were not able to talk about the lawsuit because...
Well, what was it? Can you say it now?
Sure. L3 Technologies was, and now L3 Harris is a government contractor. And if you're a government contractor, you're going to get sued by the government. It's the nature of the beast. It's what happens.
I've been sued a couple times.
Yeah. So we were sued for the holographic weapon site because, and I won't name agencies or anybody else that decided this, but what it all boiled down to was it brought a new term into our culture, thermal drift, right? So everybody now has heard of thermal drift. At the time, thermal drift was not a thing. The requirement for that close quarters optic said that it needed to operate between this temperature and this temperature, and the storage temperature was between this temperature and this temperature.
Okay, so that was part of the contract.
Yep, and
Okay.
it did. It
Okay.
did that. It did that
Operate.
flawlessly. It operated flawlessly in that. But another government agency figured out that, hey, if I zero this thing at minus 20 Celsius and then bring it someplace that's plus 60 Celsius, the zero is going to shift. It's going to be somewhere else.
Did that meet the initial requirement?
That wasn't part of the requirement. The requirement was operate.
Operating temperature.
Right?
Yeah.
So when you zero your rifle here and then you fly to Africa, what's pretty much the first thing you do when you get to Africa before you hunt?
Oh, I always confirm 0.
Mm-hmm.
So if you went from minus 20 Celsius to plus 60, you'd probably...
Yeah, because my cheap ass don't want to shoot something and not recover it and pay for it.
That's
so,
definitely going to be the funniest thing we've heard today. His
Nah.
cheap
Right.
ass. So
no, I'm not. But I get and the thing is, if you were PR and you guys are you're
JB's
you're in
the
charge of
marketing
marketing.
Yep.
That could sound like bullshit maybe, but my experience, that seems 100% legit.
well, it's physics, right? I mean,
There's the
material-
scientific side, but there's
Right.
also the government side.
Sure.
And it's like, it's so hard when
No, no,
you're
no,
only
no.
going to
No,
get
no,
a
no.
product as
Hold
good
on.
as a requirement.
I would never want to cut you off in your own home and on your own podcast, but that wasn't
here we are.
just the base. Yeah, but which means everything before that is bullshit. No, so that was the basis of it. But what happened was that our engineers, and we have some really great scientists and engineers that work for Eotech, had already realized this was a thing. And we're working on a way to say, hey, it's physics, so we can't change it. Not in the space and time that we exist as humans on planet
it's
Earth.
tough
This
to
is going to
change
happen.
God's
right?
physics. Yeah, it's a tough one.
But how do we mitigate it as much as possible? Well, when
Or
this
predict it, or
right
yeah,
when
whatever.
this other agency figured this out and came back, and then it was made aware that we knew about it, but we didn't say anything. But the problem is, it's physics, right? And we figured something out through development cycles, and they're trying to fix. So in any case, that's why we got
that's
sued.
the constant evolution of products. I mean,
Right.
we do it, whether it's the honey badger, the silencers, the fix, anything that we do.
I hope everybody does, right?
Well,
I mean,
I think
that's the
so many
hope, right?
people, so many people don't. But if
Yeah.
you're not under, I think it's changing more now because of social media, because every asshole in the world can make it known throughout the world easily now. And the downside to that with social media is there's so much hate and bullshit. But occasionally it's how things happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, with this, because it's also true. Like, I know working with our engineers, and we're doing 8.6 blackout development now, a new cartridge, and we learn new shit every week. And I think for us, it's not being part of a government program, really. I mean, they're involved to some degree, but it's our project. We own it. We're driving it, and we're going to release it when we're ready.
Right.
And we figure stuff out every week. And about once a month, we figure out something we thought a month ago was bullshit.
Sure.
And, then it's up to me or Adam to decide, is that something that's necessary for anyone to know? So I understand this from a product development standpoint, but I think if it's played a certain way, it makes you could make anybody seem like a dirtbag.
And that's exactly what happened.
Okay, I
because
buy that.
We've always been, Eotech has always been a commercial company that's had government contracts.
Yeah?
But because our parent company was a government contractor, we had to operate like a government contracting company.
Yeah, understood.
So if you're a government contractor and you get sued by the government, the first thing you do is shut the hell up and pay up.
Yeah.
And then you don't say anything about it until it's done. So
Yeah, it's a
L3
tough one.
Technologies said,
It's tough.
damn
dealing
it,
with the government.
Eotech. We're going to write this check for $25 million. So that means Thursday afternoon, we're not making any profit, all because of you guys. And they wrote the check and told us to shut up. And JB begged and pleaded and worked his butt off to finally get us to be able to market. We had 2 years where we couldn't say anything. We couldn't even market Vudu.
Yeah, I don't like that, because to me, if you guys were dishonest and you had that intent from the beginning, that's one thing. If you don't, it seems all, and I'm sure, Adam, like knowing you personally too, It's like if you didn't have that intent, you might as well answer the question.
Exactly.
Because it's reasonable. Like, we're not trying to cheat or steal anyone,
Right.
from anyone. It is what it is. Well, was Eotech, it was acquired by L3, or was it an L3 developed company?
No, it was L3 has never developed a company.
Okay, so it was an acquisition.
Yep, we were an acquisition. But let me just roll it up before JB jumps in, because he's chomping at the bit. And
No, this
I
is great.
don't
This
see
is
him
great.
jumping
This
at
is
any
great.
bits.
the issue is
I'm going to just head out for a minute.
the
We should
issue
go just
is
go grab a beer.
they after all of his begging and pleading to listen, we need to talk to our customer. We need to make a response. L3's I guess olive branch to us was, okay, well, you still can address it, but we'll do, if you're right and your customers have lost faith, you can't tell them why they should still have faith and why this is all BS, but you can buy their site back from them.
Yeah.
It sounds like L3 is Remington.
It's
similar.
It
I mean,
is.
you know, it's huge corporate, and you're not going to let a dime stop a dollar, right? I mean,
Well,
in our
okay,
best
well,
year, we were less than 1/2% of their revenue.
I was going to
We're
say
nobody.
that's where I was going to
Yeah,
go
we're
with this,
nobody.
because I understood being advanced armament. When I was advanced armament within Cerberus, a $30 billion company, we're growing 100% a year at a 60% margin. So I just basically go to work and print money. That's what I did. But it was so little money,
right.
Yeah.
it didn't matter.
It
to
was
them.
never
It's-
gonna-
it's-
Exactly how
it's
we were. Yeah.
Well, you
not
know-
looking at 10 years down the road, or it's so frustrating.
Well,
all right, so you guys,
We got through that ish, but we were never able to properly
so
address
did the
it.
commercial market like I don't know, because I'm not a cloner and I don't stay on the forums and shit. How was this perceived from Adam? You probably know better
Well,
than
a
me.
lot of people looked at it as a way to get a quick $500 or
Oh,
whatever.
totally.
Right.
We had people.
Oh, yeah.
We had people that actually told us
Yeah.
that I love my site,
Yeah.
but I'm sending it back because I need
I need
Christmas
some-
money.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and
I
they
could
got
have
a
sent
check.
my
Class action.
original Eotechs back and get $500.
Class action lawsuit.
We had products that we made in 1996 that looked nothing like that come back.
I have one upstairs. I'm gonna give you
Too
guys.
late. You'll
Who's
get
got
that- you'll get
500?
Too late.
You
You'll get
got
the same.
$500 on you.
Listen, 5 times a day
Yeah.
we get that.
I had
So
calls,
you're not giving me
customer service.
$500.
You're not getting
No,
$500.
not for that.
No.
Never buy an Eotech.
I had two during this whole thing, and I kept them both.
Well, and that-
it's
and
just
No,
that's-
well,
ridiculous.
and
it's
the thing.
interesting for me because going through all of these things and to cut you off in my own house.
Yes, please.
A group that I'm very passionate about and worked closely with for a long time, that they claim responsibility for turning these batteries this direction. And, it's maybe something else, because, I think that whole thing now has been played out in social media and all the other fucking avenues and everybody gets it. What they told me was that an aim point was and this was 10, 12 years ago, most durable product they had that was a dot. But they ran Eotechs primarily because it's so much faster.
Exactly.
That's right.
And these were guys
The
who
pointy
actually,
end of the spear, right?
yeah,
the very tippy tip.
and people say that it's a thing, but from my exposure to them and yours would equal it, is they are the dudes that actually fucking shoot everyone.
Absolutely.
Actually shoot everyone at 2 feet at 2,000 yards. They're the ones that actually shot everyone from 2001 to 2011. And they told me, they were like, look, we ran aim points. We used to run them. Some guys still run them, not very many. The aim point tends to be a little lighter weight and more durable. This is so much faster and the field of view is better. This is what I run on my gun to defend my life. And,
Absolutely.
and as a result of that, otherwise, because I like lightweight, even the Delta Point Pro on my Honey Badger, I like it.
Dude, this is not a gym body. I like light too.
Yeah, I know. I appreciate you being here. Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
look like a fucking specimen with you here.
You do.
So,
Dressed. We get naked. That
Let's
shit
keep it.
changes,
Let's keep it
man.
that way.
Disclaimer.
Okay.
I don't know. We can do this naked. I don't care.
Tomorrow?
Hey,
Yeah.
I'm down.
Thomas, make a Pornhub account real quick.
But
You just use mine.
but I know there's been a lot of changes over the years. Actually, like turning the batteries perpendicular to the bore
Putting the
axis.
buttons on the side. We've done a lot.
What
And
was important about buttons on the side? So I want to address that. So the Eotech shit, like you guys went through all that shit, and the SCAR fucked a bunch of stuff up, and you guys kind of, I think, got
we are SCAR certified.
Yep, we passed SCAR.
We passed SCAR.
Well, that's probably everything.
What does that mean?
SCAR. Look, I can't say a lot about it because I have a lot of unhappy thoughts about FN as a company.
Okay, JB, what does that mean?
But FN has the worst. The SCAR Heavy has the worst recoil profile
Destroys
possible,
optics.
and it destroys.
You know,
optics.
it's so funny because I have the very first SCAR Heavy ever produced.
Paint me surprised. I just want to finish up the lawsuit part because I think this part's important, which is part of that lawsuit was we got to stop use where
They're not
U.S.
gonna use
SOCOM said we're not going to use this anymore because you lied to the government. So the response.
So this wasn't affecting 99.999% of the guns and users.
They think you were lying to the government because you discovered something that affects something that
was
was
not a
not
thing.
in the requirement.
Right. Well, and that
you
wasn't
did-
a thing.
and you didn't go
before
to
this. There was no the
I
thermal
mean,
drift was not in our lexicon.
Yeah, I was
right?
going to say I've dealt with them enough to know if you discover something that's outside the profile of the contract and requirements, like there's no avenue to go to them or
Correct.
Yeah,
And so since there wasn't, but it looked like we hit it's long and crazy. And of course, because now if we would have been the way we are now, just an independent company, we probably would have fought that and more than likely we would have won.
I mean,
But-
they probably wouldn't have fucked with you, honestly.
Well, the bigger
Right,
thing
that
too
too.
is you have companies that go through similar things. They get sued all the time, and it's all on how you approach the damage, right?
Right.
Magpul did it with a magazine. They came right out and said, hey, yeah, we fucked up. We're going to take it back, and we're going to fix all this stuff, and people love it. But when you hide and you can't say anything, and you got to do the shiny penny thing and with some other stuff, then people start
it
questioning you.
100% seems like you're guilty.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
From a marketing standpoint, JB, I agree with you. How
was tough.
frustrating for you.
It was
But to
tough.
get-
I would have flipped my desk.
to get past that part, just so that your viewers and watchers can realize that what we're saying isn't a spin, the reality is this. Some brilliant young engineer at Picatinny said, you know what, as we do the test for this replacement, because they had to do a very fast turn since you're going to stop use this, and we had so many Eotechs already fielded, we're going to use the Eotech as the baseline. And they selected 5 premium quality red dot sights, and they went through a phenomenal testing regimen where they went directly from freezer to oven and were checking what the thermal drift was. And guess what? Everybody had thermal shift.
Uh-oh.
And guess what? Ours was lower than the other 5 baselines. And guess what? SOCOM immediately.
So they gave you your
issued-
money back and apologized.
Nope.
No.
Oh, come on.
But they did continue to use our product.
They did.
However, that was not as clickbaitable as U.S. SOCOM says they're not using Eotech. So no one reported on that part. Somehow that document was never leaked to soldiersystems.net.
All right. So is that legit, JB? That's what happened?
That's exactly what happened. Yep.
Don't worry, the dozens of
It's-
our listeners are going to spread the word.
Sweet.
You say that.
So we got hosed on
It's
that.
a very attuned listening group.
And at that point, everybody realized that thermal drift's a thing. I mean, physics is a thing. All materials expand and contract at different rates. And so when you until we can find a good supply of unobtainium.
You had to pay them a bunch of money. They
Bunch of
suspended this.
Then we spent
They
a
did
bunch of money
test,
buying back.
and they reinstate it.
Well, our silence, too, was not just like at SHOT Show. It
Right.
was,
It was
2
2
years where we couldn't say a word.
And that ties into Vudu because that was 2 years we couldn't talk about Vudu.
Right.
Because L3 said, well, no, if you talk about Vudu, people are going to ask about HWS and we can't talk about that. So it was 2 years of nothing.
You're making me want to retire right now.
Nah, we got out of that.
That's Big Corp.
That's Big Corp.
Yep.
It was you retiring from AAC.
And all of it really was just so that they protected all their other companies and their contracts.
Yeah, they
within
don't
those
give a shit about you
Yeah,
guys.
they didn't care about
Yeah,
it.
and we were the only consumer-facing company in their portfolio. Over 100 companies.
Well, let's move on before my blood pressure goes through the roof. What?
If you took the optics out of the equation at the Picatinny test, and just to put the gun in and out of the thermal chamber, assuming you could keep it in
let's
position.
put the guy.
Right.
Yeah.
There's
Let's
more
put the
variable in that
dude.
guy.
Let's put
Exactly.
the dude who went from minus 20 to plus 60.
Exactly.
All right. This is what you need to worry about at that point.
Yeah.
But the fact was, it was a knee-jerk reaction. Now, we learned a lot from that, not just in terms of how we build and the different CTs of the different materials and how to minimize that as much as possible. And, of course, about marketing or the lack thereof and what happens to it, to your brand and your company with it. But one of the things that we learned from it that I don't know, I'm not 100% certain we would have figured out without having to go through all of the BS that we went through, is that we have never properly educated the consumer, whether they're military or commercial, on the advantages of holography and why it's better. Because that same group that you said they were responsible for the horizontal turn, which they were, there's guys there who've been shooting guys with Eotech HWSs for 15 plus years, and I sit down and talk to them, and I'm like, why is it faster? And they go, well, because it's got the bigger window, and I can see more in my peripheral vision, and da-da-da-da. And you go, well, really, those are ancillary effects of the light path that we have to put together to replay a hologram. The reality of it is it's faster because of holography. And we've never really properly articulated
what do you mean?
that.
It's not the circle?
The circle,
That's
the fact
holography,
that
That's
but
part of
the
it.
reason that we
Yep.
can do that circle and the reason we can do that 1 MOA dot is because of holography. But what's most important about that is the fact that we can use that hologram to essentially trick your brain into believing that reticle is taking place at the same distance.
Well, what do you
as
mean?
the target.
How's that happen? How's that
Because
different
the
than a name
refresh
point?
rates.
So, well, it's
something.
not really the refresh rate. It's how we can record that hologram, because a hologram is actually a recording of light. All right. So when you look at a traditional red dot scope, I've got an LED, and no matter what mask I put on it, it's reflecting on a front lens, and my eye is seeing that reflected light. With a hologram, I can use our laser and our mask to record a hologram or a holographic image on a glass plate that the parallax is set in such a way that your brain perceives that as being somewhere between 5 and 200 meters away from you. So here's the best way I can explain it, because I am not a scientist. You know this.
I do.
What I try to explain to people is, like, if you fighter jet, all right, the heads-up display in a fighter jet is a hologram. It's completely holographic. In your car, your heads-up display is a reflection of an LED, right? You've got an LED light source in the dash, and it's reflecting onto the windscreen. So the benefit is that I don't have to look at the dashboard. I can look at the windscreen. But if you notice, you still have to shift your focus, right? You can see it, but to read it, you've got to shift your focus. Well, you can't do that doing Mach 2 in a fighter jet, because life is happening here. You can't afford to change your focus. You have to continue to look out. So with a holographic sight, what we're able to do is, if a target appears at 100 yards, when you bring your sight to your eye, with a holographic sight, your eye believes that reticle is taking place at that same 100 yards. So you never shift focus. If you bring a red dot to your eye, because that dot is actually right here, your eye is going to automatically refocus on that near dot.
Similar to iron sights.
Similar to iron sights. And now you have to shift your focus.
So it's not the circle as much as
the circle allows you to find it faster.
So the holograph allows you to maintain your focus on the intended target.
Exactly. And so you can
I've
take
never heard it explained this way. That's interesting.
You can take a 1x red dot, right, and keep both eyes open. But over time, what's going to happen is your non-dominant eye is going to start to twitch and want to close up, because your eye is constantly shifting focus between the target image and the reticle, or that dot, because the dot is taking place right here. With a holographic sight, You don't have to make that shift. Your eye doesn't refocus, so it saves you hundreds or thousands of a second. And that's what wins gunfights, right? So the guys knew it was faster.
Yeah, according to the guys that really shoot people.
And so as a consequence of that, because of our light path, that's why you get a rectangular window. That's why you get such a larger display.
Well, that's a great way to explain it, because another thing I like is that I don't have to worry about dirt or something getting on it and blocking it. So what I need to know is then how do I get one a third the size?
Okay. So that's
what I want, and the weight.
Magic question. Yeah.
So that's the so the weight is the
Well,
thing.
magic ain't cheap, and I got a pocketbook. I got it.
So one of the things that I'm sure you dealt with at AAC, dealing with Remington is, hey man, if it works, keep rocking it. Let's keep bringing in the ducats.
Maybe it's a good time. Maybe it's a good time to
talk about the changes.
So maybe we'll ask JB.
I think you should.
So okay,
sure
so you guys, what happened?
I'll interrupt.
Because I was always confused. Like, so you guys are part of L3. Then what happened? And this is where you are now.
Right. So, like around 2005 is when L3 came in. We were just winning the SOCOM contract. So our value is high. L3 is a acquisition company. They came in, bought us, and I'll give them credit. They infused a lot of money and helped us progress that way.
Yeah.
But that's really about all they helped. It really stifled marketing, stifled product development at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I think anybody out there that works for a big company, you can kind of understand some of this. Yeah.
Yep. So we struggled. But, and then we went through, we did launch some products. We launched Magnifiers. We did launch the transverse battery and things like that. But again, it was always just a struggle because they're a defense company and we were a commercial company.
So, what's their main product? Maybe let's sidebar that.
For people to recognize, their main product is the scanners at the airport that you go through and you lift your hands up and they do that.
Lord.
Yeah,
Okay.
so their brand, that's probably the most recognizable L3 product.
Well, in the military, let's say, what's their most
A
recognizable?
lot of surveillance and reconnaissance stuff. They do, they did have a
So a lot of electronic stuff.
Yep. They also
All right.
did a lot of labor. I mean, they provided contract work and all kinds of stuff. So they had their hands in everything.
Yeah, but I mean, they have sensors and their technology is in space and at the bottom of the ocean and everywhere in between. Like L3, when we were prior to the merger of L3 and Harris, L3 had right around 100 companies in their portfolio.
Jesus, how many employees L3 have?
60,000 at one point. I think it's
shit.
probably more now that they merged with Harris.
Yeah,
but,
I would imagine.
I know that number went down, but yeah, about probably 50, 60,000 people.
Okay, so at Eotech, how many you got?
It fluctuates, but I think we're probably around 175 to 200.
So to understand that difference. All right, so you guys are part of L3.
Yep.
And
Yeah, so
starting in 05?
05, yep, all the way into, we struggled all the way up to 2000, 2018 they fired me, but then they merged with...
I've been there.
Yeah, it actually was the greatest thing that could have happened, but because...
Also been there.
Because in the following months, L3 merged with a bigger giant in Harris Communications, yeah. Yep. So now instead of being a $15 billion company, they're like a $40 billion company. So I wasn't at Eotech for that pain, but these guys were. And the greatest thing that came out of it was Harris was the alpha dog. And they said at one point, we're going to get rid of every commercial segment we have. We are not a commercial company. So we're going to divest in everything commercial.
Yeah.
Never thought it would have happened, but they ended up putting Eotech up on the selling block, and a lot of people were interested. There was a group of former Eotech people, my former boss, one of our international guys at one point. They kind of put together a group and found some private equity guys, and they put in a bid. And because we were a U.S. company and not some of these international big ones, L3 Harris wanted to work through them to kind of get it done so that the
Okay,
shareholders.
so that's what happened. So
Yep.
it's like former Eotech employees bought the company.
Yeah.
With private equity funding.
Yep. And so those 3 are active. They're all presidents at some level, international, domestic, and one's their CTO. And they brought me back, and I brought some people back. And now it's the old Eotech gang trying to do the shit we wanted to do back in 2005.
Okay, so from my standpoint, what we should take away from this is you guys got the experience of working with a big company, military contractor. So the good and the bad, that goes away. You have that experience. You have the people who are still motivated. You get some cash. You buy it back. And now we should see some innovation, which probably explains what you showed me in the kitchen earlier.
That's right. Yeah. So the first thing that we did was redefine the product roadmap that they currently had. And they had a couple decent things on there, but they were also chasing, a fictitious product technology. So immediately wiped away that.
So you get people who, not career corporate executives, but you get people who understand the product and markets. And
right. Yep.
I love it. This makes me a new fan of Eotech and Vudu all over again.
This is exciting.
Yeah. So we've got a lot of
Seeing
new things.
those products that we saw. Ooh, I know that one. If I can't steal that before you guys leave.
If the demand and the resources and supply chain weren't so crazy, and we knew exactly when we were going to launch those, we would be showing them right now. But
I know Adam's slow at our place.
We're prepared.
I'm quick at my job. Adam is
What if we put a big disclaimer up that says, "Don't ask when this, no ETAs."
Don't tell anyone.
Yeah, because that works.
It always
It
works.
totally
Yeah.
works.
Well, okay. So that's where you guys are now. That's
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, so we've launched we've relaunched our 3-power G43 magnifier and our G45 magnifier.
Well, what the hell's the difference? 5 and 3?
Yeah,
X?
good math.
Okay.
Yeah.
Difference of 2.
He knows
Why
his
put all
numbers.
that other shit in there? The magnifiers, that's popular with the kids now, huh? You guys sell a lot of that.
We sell a ton of them, but and a lot of it is because our product benefits from the magnifier more than it does from anything else.
But if you got a 5 MOA dot, then it's 25 MOA.
Yeah, that's
Negative.
where right.
No?
That's where
What's the deal?
Without
What,
going
you guys
into
are arguing this?
No, we're arguing your
Yeah,
statement.
your statement's fucking wrong.
Okay. Well, tell me, motherfucker.
So
I'm here to learn, all right?
I just realized that when he's talking, that camera's on. So I've been sitting here fucking making jackass faces. So
Well,
you're going to have a lot of editing.
We call those Aaron
I
Hampton
forgot.
faces.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's my regular mug.
You
but-
guys share a camera.
Yeah, I forgot about
Yeah,
that shit. That's not
That's
a good.
okay.
You shouldn't do that anymore. Have your own
Just
shit.
put an emoji over him.
Well, now I'm going to remember, and I'll have fucking Captain Save the Planet
Yeah.
face. Yeah. Earlier, it was kind of creepy. though.
How's that bullshit?
So Aaron went into the optical path, and if you were to dissect this product, you would see that the optical path is pretty complicated, and that's why one of the reasons why we really can't shrink it down because there's a lot in there compared to a red dot. But one of the cool things about holography is it is driven by a laser diode as opposed to an LED light.
Yeah.
When you have a laser diode, it's a true point source, so the dot is actually tiny, really small. Our eye can only perceive that dot as 1 MOA or greater, so it's a 1 MOA dot. When you flip magnification in front of it, it's still a 1 MOA dot,
No,
but now your
bullshit.
target is 3
Really?
to 5 times greater. Yeah.
Take a look. Set it.
Yep.
It's true.
And one
You'd
point
have to.
I
magnify it
mean,
over.
truth
Yeah.
be told, me being honest, like I've never used a magnifier ever in my life.
Sure.
Well,
And I've used an Eotech. Like
Yeah,
I
no.
have it on guns, use it all the time.
one of you guys made the point earlier. Another advantage of using the magnifier versus a low power variable optic is a lot of people go from like 1 and then they dial right up to 6. They're
Right.
not really in between much. So now you can have your
I agree
1
with
to
that
3
too.
or a 1 to 5 in a smaller, lighter
No doubt.
package.
Yep.
Yeah, and you're getting a much better field of view.
Yep.
Well, wait. What is this in the magnifier way compared to your 1 to 6?
I think it's going to be a little heavier.
yeah,
I mean, it's comparable.
It's very
weight-wise.
close. Yeah.
The one to
Okay,
6 is
so it's
heavier?
not.
You're
right.
a little bit shorter. You take up a little bit less rail space going this way, but
So this is a little heavier, but maybe a little shorter.
but maybe a little shorter. But I think
You can always take that off, though.
one
Yeah, it
power,
comes off real quick.
One power, you're getting a wider field of view. You're getting a
Definitely.
faster reticle.
Two eyes open.
You're getting much better off-axis performance than you could ever get with any LVPO.
Okay, I
What?
feel like
LPVO. Jesus Christ.
just say it.
Low power variable optic. Let's welcome Destiny to the stage. I love hearing my
That's
voice
how I
over my-
recognize you.
There you go. I met all of them, dude. I met all of them.
Destiny's the guy.
Candy's the good. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the
that's
thing.
heavy.
That's the thing. When you start to think about what is the primary duty of that platform, if it's got to be super fast into action, if your life depends on it, with distance, I need magnification for distance and for partial shots. Well, if I only have a partial target or it's far away, that buys me time. That buys me some security. But if I got a guy in the room with a gun, I need to kill him right now. So if my primary goal is to have a fast into action, fast on
I guess
target,
that's no different than
having that one
than
power.
turning a.
Yep.
Well,
Well, with night vision too,
Yeah.
even like a lot of civilians have night vision now. It's getting more and more affordable. This makes a lot more sense than an LPVO.
something we heard on a different podcast that we did too. Is there an optimum distance?
It's the one that you feel comfortable with. And that sounds really fucking stupid, but it's
I
kind of
agree.
like with your. We've seen guys, tip of the spear guys who have put their holographic sight pretty much all the way out on the end of the forend of their rifle because it's a true 1X, right? And you're not going to see it. So the distance from that, I like them. I like it. So if you take this one, you can see it better because the buttons are on the side.
Yeah,
I like it mashed against.
It's the reason why we did
So-
the buttons on the side.
Right.
Oh, that is so you
Yeah.
could mount the magnifier close.
And
Yep.
so you'll see
I didn't know
the
that.
windage
Did you know
and
that,
the,
Adam? I did not know
the
that.
windage and the
shot my
elevation.
head
I
like
thought
I
it
did.
was for
It just makes sense why I
flip
feel
up
like I knew
irons
that.
or something.
Yeah.
It makes more
does
sense.
Make sense, doesn't it?
So there is the distance between the two. There is an optimum setting.
Optimum for us is as close as possible.
Okay.
Because that way
The same
you
thing
take
I
up
say
the
with
least amount of rail space.
Inline night vision thermal.
But you can, because there's a diopter adjustment there, you can adjust it. And also because you notice there's windage and elevation. knobs.
that was my next question. Why
So
do you have
can
that on
center
here?
the reticle. Because when you put it back there,
They're not lined
you don't
up.
want your reticle to look like it's cattywampus. So I can
So
adjust that
just
to
center
put
the
the
reticle.
and that's it. I don't change my zero at all. I just change my perception of the reticle inside of that. So it's kind of like, I'm sure you've used
I know what
a
you're saying.
PVS 14.
Yep.
And your dots in a
Yep.
weird spot that prevents that.
All right. So that's why we have buttons on the side. That's why we have elevation windage here. That's awesome.
And it's flipped to side so you can have that super fast reticle and the advantages of holography on 1X. And then if I, have a partial target or something far away, now I can bump that magnification up, but I still have a 1 MOA dot.
Right.
That's awesome. I did not know that. I learned
Holography
something
is
today.
magic.
Did you know that?
I knew some of it.
The
Not
other
all of
part,
it.
other part of holography though is we can do ballistic dots. We can have.
Oh, you
multiple
guys
dots in
showed
there.
me one in one of these.
Right.
We've got it's probably this one.
But we can make any reticle pattern we want. So we've done things for grenade launchers, we've done things for M2s, but we could put multiple dots in there. The benefit is you have multiple 1 MOA dots, and you can.
Yeah, you guys did a
Calculate it
300
to-
blackout,
sure.
which you've given
Yep.
me in the past, which
Yep.
is great. Is green still cool, or are you guys doing
Oh my
red
God.
now?
Green.
Because
So
you gave me a green one a couple years ago, and I have it on one of my guns.
Yeah, hey, that was a long time ago.
Was that during the zombie phase?
No,
I
don't
don't
we
think
wish
so.
though? That would
Yeah.
have been the way to do it.
Yeah.
we did green because we did pretty well with gray, and Instagram people are just blowing us up for OD
No,
green.
he's talking about
No,
green
the
reticle.
green
green
reticle.
I'm sorry. Yeah, so green
Jesus.
reticle. But we are doing an OD green sight.
Oh, you
because-
are? That's cool.
Because anything we post on Instagram, it could be Happy Father's Day. And people say, well, what the hell? Why aren't you coming out with OD green sights? It's like, what's that?
Well, I will say people can't tell because the podcast's in black and white. That one's gray. That looks awesome. I want that on my gun. So you guys can do all of that stuff.
yeah.
Is a green reticle though? Is that still a thing, or that
Yep.
died?
No, it's still a thing.
Well-
It took us a long time because green diodes don't last as long from battery
Oh,
life,
yeah.
and they don't perform as well as red in like extreme temperatures. But
Oh.
we were able to
That's
overcome
interesting to
those
know.
two things, and yeah, we do have a green reticle line that does pretty well. But it's we especially right now with the demand the way it is, we can't keep up with red,
Yeah.
so our green is suffered from a production standpoint.
But so if you have green now, battery life and what was the other thing?
Battery life and temperature. Temperature we've overcome.
So what about battery life?
Battery life is about the same too, because green is basically, what is it, 5 times easier to see or 6 times easier to see?
It's 8 times your rods and cones are 8 times more receptive to the color green than red, so you can pick it
I'd have
up
thought
faster.
this. Oh my God, I
Yeah.
love what you guys are doing. I love it. This is awesome. Just don't need the 25 power.
Yeah,
I
and
want to tune it down a little bit.
there's more to follow. Look, just like with the fix, we got to, you've got to prove that you can do it on the hard stuff,
Yeah,
and that was
100%.
that was
Is anybody built a 25 power like this yet?
no
Not a good one.
JB,
The-
not him.
Not a
No,
good
no,
one.
no.
Okay, we're talking to JB.
short.
What you got?
Yeah, I mean-
Who's done something?
We kind of went after Schmidt and Bender. They have a $4,000. It's a 5
It's a
to
5 to
20.
20.
5 to 20. That's right. It's a short dot.
So
But-
4
Yeah,
times the rector.
we blow it away and we're half the cost.
Is it this size?
It's I think just
It's
half an inch longer
yeah,
or so.
it's between a half.
Okay,
3/4
so
inch longer.
so we'll call that same. What's
Well,
the weight?
It's it's comparable.
Yeah,
the big
the-
difference is the
All right.
price.
So
The
what's
big
this
difference is price
retail
and the
at?
magnification.
All
It's
right,
still
settle down, Hampton.
God damn it! It's still 5 on the floor, but it only goes up to 20. Ours is 5 on the floor and goes to 25. So it's totally different.
So 4 and 5 is not the same.
4X and 5X are different.
Yeah.
What
I'm no math magician, but that checks out.
what's this cost retail?
That, depending on the reticle, is about $2,100 to $2,400.
Oh.
We,
God,
and
I don't want to support Aaron Hampton at all, but that's a fucking bargain.
for everything that you're getting out of it. Plus, like I say, if you compare it to what we kind of built it against, you're saving. I mean, you could buy a rifle along with the scope for what you would pay for a Schmidt and Bender. That I would argue is as good.
Well, I like to think I make a fair amount of money. I have 2 Smith and Bender scopes, and I've got about 200 rifles. So yeah, their shit be expensive. I do. Y'all's clicks are nice too. I like the turrets on this stuff. Not too big. Clicks good. Yeah, I like a lot of stuff y'all do. Oh my God, if I had this, if that was a 2 to 20, because what's the Night Force? I like that power range, but that thing's bigger, heavier.
So you'd be happy with the 2 to 20 in that size package?
Oh my God, I'd be so happy.
So, goddamn podcast world. Do I hear you saying that if we build a 2 to 20 that is approximately that size, maybe a smaller objective, because I think I could get away with a slightly smaller objective, make it a little more streamlined, that you would package that on an 8.6 fixed rifle for your community to go out and buy, and we could all do some great things for our customers together?
Not only that, but I'll pay $3,000 for the first one.
So you're saying we got a shot?
So,
You're saying there's a chance.
so
Yeah, 2 to 20 in this size,
All right.
like that. I mean, it's hard to argue having a different scope, honestly.
So we're gonna run and get started. It's gonna be a 34 millimeter tube, because that's the only way I can get the exit pupil.
I like
that makes
34.
sense.
It's cool.
I think we can reduce that down to probably a 42 millimeter objective.
I like that.
We'll say about the same size as that. We're gonna put some low profile turrets on it, and we'll make it in a 2 to 20.
On that beep that you had in the kitchen, that low profile turret, that thing is so nice.
And don't you love that click for the lock?
It was very nice.
We'll do those.
Clickety-click.
We'll do those. We'll do them a little bit larger. 'Cause it's a
I
little
mean,
bit
that's
bigger
it.
scope,
Because there's a thing, I mean, honestly, it's like Adam. What I thought about the fixed rifle. we could do the most awesome thing in the world. If it costs $8,000 a piece, it doesn't matter. And I think it's the same thing with Smith & Bender. I like a lot of Smith & Bender scopes. I have two. Two of them were given to me. And that's not a knock on them. It's just like, I ain't paying $4,500 for a scope. Like, I'm not saying I wouldn't, but it needs to do something beyond what's out there
Big
now.
difference, right?
Like it better have a built-in rangefinder. It better, I don't know what it would have to have. It would have to have something more.
Yeah.
But, at $2,000 for a scope, if you can get all that stuff, oh my God, or in that price range.
Sure. And it's, it's car, right? You can pay that kind of money for a Porsche or a Ferrari, but you're getting something that no other car can do for you. When you start Schmidt & Bender now, they have fantastic glass, but there's a lot of scopes with fantastic glass at far better price points. 10 years ago, if you wanted the consistency and the reliability and the clarity that you got from a Schmidt & Bender, you had very few options that weren't priced like Schmidt & Bender. But it's gotten good. A lot of places have gotten really good, and the performance level has risen up. So to spend the kind of money that they demand, it's just a harder sell because the value proposition's really not quite there. And that's one of the
I
things.
think so.
That's one of the things that actually hurt us, I believe, when we launched Vudu, because we beat the hell out of the lawsuit earlier, but the fact that we couldn't market them. Our goal was to build a scope that was very high performing, but also offered a great value. Well, without
The
marketing,
Vudus are great value. There's
without
no doubt.
marketing, though, people think that great value translates to cheap scope, and that's not the case.
It
So
is.
it put us behind.
It is interesting, even in China. When you and I were kids, and I think we're about the same age, but
Right there.
so Japanese stuff was cheap shit then. And then Japanese evolves into great quality stuff.
Right.
And then it's Chinese is the cheap crap. And now in China, you can get crap all the way to great performing
That's right.
products.
Yep.
So many U.S. companies have set up technology and factories there, and and the Chinese are not shy about stealing and ripping shit off. And it is interesting the quality that you can get in whether it's Japan or China or the Philippines, compared. And yes, Schmidt & Bender, I mean, it's just a different ballgame. When you talk about spending $4,000 to $5,000 on an optic, that is, you are in one small fraction of 1% of people that are going to do that.
Sure.
You
that in Europe, it's a hell of a lot cheaper, to get a Schmidt & Bender optic. And so, a lot has to do with tariffs and trades and stuff. But you're fighting for, if done right and developed properly, you're going to end up with
somebody's kicking something.
That was me. With a good and high-performing optic. It won't have the heritage or the legacy of a Schmidt & Bender. And,
who cares?
Who was that company, Kevin? I'm sure Premier Heritage. You remember them?
Was that an offshoot of...
Premier Reticle.
Yeah.
Reticle,
So
right.
Premier Reticle, when the father died, the son started Premier Heritage.
Well, Premier Reticle was from where? Was that from Schmidt or from U.S. Optic?
No,
what was that?
No. It was a standalone company, and they were redoing the reticles for the Schmidt & Bender Marine Corps contract rifles.
Used
That's
to do
kind
all
of
the
how
horsehair
they rose.
reticle.
Yeah, they did
Yep.
all the horsehair reticles, and that's kind of how they rose to prominence. And then the son, since they were working with all those Schmidt & Bender engineers, and this is my understanding of what happened, he started Premier Heritage. And when I first saw those scopes, I was blown away. The turret locks, everything they did about it was amazing. And honestly, that scope was every bit as good as a Schmidt & Bender. But he priced it the same as a Schmidt & Bender.
Oh, yeah, you don't have that name.
And you don't have that name. You don't have that
it is part... JB, as you know, like doing marketing, for me, starting Q... there's so many things to consider. Like, number one, to me, you always have to have an innovative quality product, period. That's where it starts for me. I'm not trying to compete with Savage or Yankee Hill or, Smith & Wesson, and all these companies are great. It's just not where I'm trying to be. I ain't trying to be the biggest gun. I'm not trying to be a commodity. But doing that, building a brand, and having brand equity, I want everything we release to be the best in our product category. It's something I try to demand and I expect, and I want to build a culture that expects that from ourselves, and that allows me to charge a premium.
Right. And
if you don't have that, you can't. You got to compete with the other companies. Like, marketing is difficult. For me, I think I take to it kind of naturally, and I think there's some segment of the population that we do, and I'm able in some way to explain, but I'm also a product guy. I think like Aaron, where I understand both sides, and I demand this stuff of our product. And I know if we can reach this, then I can market it however we want. But I want to build a brand that demands a premium, because I don't want to have 2,000 employees. I'm not trying to be the biggest. I want to be the best, and we want to charge a premium for everything we do. But I also demand that whether it's our new trigger that's coming out, or our new bipod, or it's our gun, you're blown away when you pick it up. Like, when I see this and you tell me that's a 25 power scope, I'm blown away. This is an example. And you're right, Aaron. You can't like, Schmidt and Bender has earned that over time.
Absolutely.
And I think they're falling off. I think that's just part of it.
People are catching up.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think that's better. That they're catching up. Schmidt and Bender's still great quality, but
but when you talk about like price, for me, I don't suspect that in 15 years from now, the fixed rifle that we offer now, if we offer the same one, it's not going to be the same price. It's going to be cheaper. You can adjust for inflation and everything, but we should have something newer available. And the old one should be less money, or it should be discontinued.
Sure.
And I think that's a place where Schmidt and Bender is. And a lot of the European companies, I mean, call it H&K, whoever, all these companies that I've loved and aspired to be over the decades that I've been in the industry. It's tough being those European companies. They just got a different mindset. There's a different gun culture in Europe. Ownership, barrier to entry, like the requirements are different. And it used to be, optic-wise, I think before, to one of your competitors, Leupold, to give them a little bit of a tribute, before them, that was kind of what was expected for a Tier 1 asset optic, would be a European thing. That technology really wasn't here. And I think it is now. Their old technology, which is still phenomenal, is available, and, you can have it done in Japan or other places. And you can add greater quality control and stuff like that. The turret situation, the reticles, all these things have changed. I don't know what they've really got to offer now at that price point.
And a lot of it has to do with being at a point where you can rest on your laurels, right? I mean, if people are still going to pay Schmidt and Bender prices for what is a really and truly a Me Too product at this point, and in some ways they've fallen off. I mean, the last Schmidt and Bender that I bought was a 5-20, and it came in a white box that said Schmidt and Bender. It was wrapped in corrugated paper with 2 rubber bands holding it together, and I'm like, God damn it, I just wrote 9 pages on packaging for Vudu, and these son of a guns get away at double the price point, and you get nothing.
It doesn't last forever. You ever seen the movie Bull Durham?
Yeah.
So, do you remember Kevin Costner? He's there, and it's what's the lady's name in that? The actress. It's like the hot older lady. She's married to Tim Robbins now, and I think they met on the set.
Susan Sarandon.
Susan Sarandon. So 30 years ago, she was hot.
She's not bad now.
I have no idea.
She's
But anyway, I think on the
like.
set of that movie, she met Tim Robbins. They've been married a long time. She's 20 years older than him. They got kids. Whatever. But in the movie, Kevin Costner, he is like a career, 15, 20-year minor leaguer, has the most home runs ever in the minor leagues. No one knows it but her. But there's a scene when Tim Robbins comes into the minor leagues, like right out of high school or whatever, and he's like wild, but he throws like 5 mile an hour fastballs. And there's the shower scene, And
There you go.
I still, Aaron will relate to that part. But
Yours
to me,
just
the part that I relate to is Kevin Costner. So Tim Robbins, he like had a good game. He comes out of the shower and they're interviewing him, and Kevin Costner pulls him aside and says, "Hey, look, asshole. When you've won 20 games in the major league, it's cool to have like mold on your flip flops. But when you're in the minor league and you won your first game, you just look like a douchebag." And it's kind of a thing like resting on your laurels. Or if you're absolutely the best, you can get away with whatever you want from a marketing standpoint. Sure. And that's marketing, like those guys presenting themselves. But, Kevin Costner being a veteran's like, hey, when you've actually accomplished something, and until then, you got to put in the work. And I always think of that. And that's where I think, because I like to try all kinds of marketing. And with our company, the culture, and especially the engineering, as long as we're best, we can market however we want. If, we had a product that is comparable to something else in the market, then we got to find other ways to market it. And I've always found that to be interesting. But, Schmidt and Bender, they're in the situation now where you've got that name, but just like H&K, when I was young starting in our industry, H&K was the best gun company in the world by far. Like their marketing, their products, like they were just next level. And they're not now.
Yeah.
And but that's the H&K I think of, and that's that and Knight's Armament and stuff's what's inspired me. But we have to be best. Otherwise, it's a commodity, and I think that's probably where Schmidt is now.
Sure.
H&K's got a great Instagram.
Yeah, their Instagram
Very
is
good.
terrific.
Yeah.
Yeah, but product-wise, it's like I still like H&K stuff, but I mean, when I was young and Jim Schatz and Wayne Weber, they were doing the demos, and they had the belt feds, and they had the P7s and the USPs and the MP5s. All that stuff was still kind of state-of-the-art. They were on top of the world, and they stopped innovating, and I could probably buy H&K now. So it's like, who cares?
Well, and they do the fits and starts thing where they say, okay, we built this facility out in Georgia. You guys are going to start to command your own destiny out at HK USA, and then they pull that back and they push it forward. And
well, you probably have that experience at FN where it's like you're a U.S. subsidiary of a European company. It's just so much lost in translation. It's very difficult.
I think, though, you can look at it one of two ways and like it, love it, hate them, whatever. But, I think you've got to if you're going to have that conversation, you have to look at SIG as kind of a benchmark for it. Prior to Ron Cohen, regardless of what you think about him and the company as a whole, it was completely run by the Germans. Yeah. And, it was his attitude and leadership and no matter what you think about it personally or as a whole, ultimately it was their trust in him, in Ron Cohen and what he was planning to do that allowed them to make the transition to say, okay, our brand is not dependent upon the idea that the gun is marked made in Germany. That the Americans can do good things.
Adam, would you agree? That was, I remember I was on a conference call with Larry Vickers and Mac from Military Arms Channel, probably 2015, where they firmly believed that the German 226 or 8 or 9, I guess, was 8 was way better than the American version. And so I met with the engineers. I got an idea of all the differences, and then I met with them. But it was still something we were fighting then, was the German stuff was way better.
Yeah.
And that might come down to volume. I don't know what their volume was when it was all Germany, but coming into the U.S., volume was massive. So, but had to be more mass-produced. I don't know.
What is your metric for determining that, right? For the most part, it's just that I like the stuff that came out of Germany. That's
why do we like that? I think it's a thing, and I think most of the time
same reason why everybody wants a Swiss watch, right?
And they're probably mostly right, but a thing with the German. So this must have been 228, 229 talk, because it was with the Germans were stamping the slides and doing all the stuff, and then it's in the U.S. where machining the stuff, and they believed it was lower quality, and so I just kind of ran through all that stuff with them. And I think at the time when we first started doing all that stuff over here, it probably was as good or better. And I don't know if it is now. There as many guns as they're producing. But there is something to be said for, especially, the Germans, the Austrians, the Swiss, small volume, everything. You got a real craftsman that's seeing and holding and finishing every part.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that it's equivalent or better than or whatever. My point is simply that when you look at HK, they're not allowed to make those market decisions that would benefit from the U.S. side. And at the time back then, SIG was in the same position. And so now, they had some trust, they had some faith, they gave it a risk, and they allowed SIG USA to kind of dictate their own course. And when you look at H&K, they're not there. When you look at FN, they're not there. And from working at FN, even for the short time that I was there, one of the things that really stuck out to me is that may be a hindrance, having that European parent company, but you can also use it as a crutch, and then it's going to hinder your growth and development further, because now you've got a built-in excuse for anything that doesn't go well.
Yeah, there are those people.
And that's where I think
I will give Ron Cohen credit there. He wanted to do things the Germans didn't want to do. He didn't use it as a crutch. He just became determined to bring all that stuff to America, and I'll credit him there, because although I'm sure the German stuff, because we know the Swiss stuff was great, and I'm sure the German stuff was too, if they're an unwilling participant, it's not going to be good for Americans.
Absolutely.
And we've seen it. Either they don't send stuff, they're not responsive. It's adversarial. Like, I saw it at H&K, and, I saw it at SIG, and I think Ron made the right decisions there. The market for SIG was in America.
Yep.
And I honor him with that. He did a lot of good stuff in that regard. Things I don't like about him is he is probably what the Germans would say now. He's willing to cut corners that I don't think are the right call. But it's he gets to be the CEO there, and I'm not. So
Adam gets to be the CEO here.
Yeah, and I would hope our culture would be, it's got to be more reasonable. Like we want, but we're in a different position than SIG. They want to be the biggest gun company in the world, and they're chasing all this stuff.
Well, but where you got to give yourself credit is the vision of what you want to be and where you want to be. And Ron Cohen had a vision for where he wanted SIG to be.
I think,
whether you agree
I think Ron personally is where he wants to be, and that's a position I would never want. And I think Q is definitely getting to a place where I want to be personally.
Right.
I don't want to wear a suit and act like I'm important, and I don't want to be the biggest gun company in the world. I want Adam and I to run the best gun company in the world, and not the biggest, but we have the best brand equity, and we have the most innovative stuff, and we do and we have the best quality of life every day. My hope for not only Adam, but whether it's Thomas or Jay or every employee at Q, is that you love every day you work, or as many as possible, and that you're kept from a lot of the big company bullshit, and that we do something that everybody knows makes a difference. And, everyone has some sort of fulfillment and value in what they do, and they're proud of the products that we release. And I would say it again here. With these products here, I would be super proud of my guys. So I can't wait to see. Okay, so you guys now, we're going to shift gears. You guys now are no longer L3. So it's just Eotech. Well, first of all, where did the name Vudu come from?
So there were a couple projects that we were working on that I mentioned earlier that were kind of fictitious in technology. We were just chasing something that really didn't exist.
JB, feel free to dodge this question accordingly. So on previous podcasts, people have brought you up in conversations about, pistol red dots. So the question is, why isn't Eotech making a holographic pistol red dot?
Yeah, we've always wanted to. I mentioned earlier in the podcast that there's a lot of stuff in that optic in this holographic sight. There's an optical path that goes about 8 different ways. So it is really, really difficult. So there's a lot of things in that product. The optical path has about 8 different angles into it. So it's very, very difficult to make it smaller. This is really about as small as we could do it with the technology that is here. We have some new technology that we're working on that might allow us to do that, but it's just really difficult to minimize it. So we do have some things in the works for pistol sights. It won't be holographic at first, but we do have it in our roadmap down the road. Yeah. If this new technology is what we think it is, we'll have something holographic in the next couple of years.
That's awesome. Very exciting. For these ones, could you make us just as compatible with a smaller battery?
Yeah, you can, but there's a trade-off. I mentioned earlier, it's powered by a laser diode, so there's a lot of advantages to using the laser diode. We talked about how the dot size is really small, but it takes a lot more to run that laser diode. So if you do other batteries, they're not as common as a CR123 or AA like we have some other models. And then B, you just run out of runtime. We've always been hammered on runtime, especially when you compare to red dots that run for 5 years.
Yeah, I guess I was probably wondering the same thing as Adam. Like, if you shrink it down to half the size, can you use one battery instead of 2?
No. For one, you can't shrink it down to half the size. I always thought.
I disagree. We should be able to shrink it down half the size.
That's what I say. Just grab it by the corner and just drag it low.
I've seen Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yeah.
It's possible.
What's cool is that we get a couple of counterfeits in every week.
Oh, the airsoft bullshit?
Oh, for like RMAs or whatever?
But we've never, so in all the 20 plus years of Eotech history, of all the counterfeits that we've ever got in, no one's ever counterfeited the holography part. It's just a red dot in our trade dress. Yep. And JB said it a long time ago, and it's the most fitting thing in the world. It's like, holography is fucking hard. And we struggle every day.
Magic ain't cheap.
Every day.
Every day we struggle to do it well.
Magic ain't cheap, man.
And we're working on it. But even if we did reduce the light path, which we figured out how to reduce the light path, right? Make the window smaller and all that other stuff. Our current technology does not allow us to replay that hologram with anything other than a laser diode. Right. And laser diodes are power hungry, so we're still going to have a big battery. The problem that we were talking about earlier with dealing with corporate was that, hey, you got a good thing. Just keep making that good thing. Keep printing that money. Don't worry about it.
I mean,
now
that's
that we're not constrained by that, we're working feverishly to execute some priorities that we've had for a while in product management that we've wanted to bring to life. We're now being, unleashed to bring those things to life to reduce that.
Well,
so you'll see it.
I mean, one thing we can talk about here. So you got this one without the outer shield, because the aluminum outer shield adds a lot of weight.
It adds a bit of weight, but more importantly, I think it really does, in a lot of instances, it kind of detracts from your peripheral, I mean, because it's adding that extra amount, and we had to do that to ruggedize it. But what we wanted to do was add, give it an all aluminum housing, an all metallic housing, and that to me is just, it's as cool as it gets in this form factor. And we've got it. We're working on what we're calling, holography Gen 2, where we can kind of leapfrog where we're at and our requirements for that from product management, and that the engineers are working diligently toward is reduction in size, reduction in power consumption,
scalability. Yeah.
And
well, to me, I don't even care about
the
power consumption. I don't know why people worry about that. Like the battery, although those 1, 2, 3 batteries are expensive, it's so cheap. Yeah. Like I want smaller, lighter. I don't give a fuck about the. If I got to put a new battery in it every time I go to hunt, I'm going to spend $7,000. I don't want to spend another $1.38 on a battery. Like no.
You don't know our struggle. Our struggle has been for years. We're fighting the 5-year battery life of LEDs.
That's
but
stupid.
The way that we've always sold against it, but it just doesn't. People don't comprehend it. Is this will still last longer than any of your on-gun lasers, your flashlights, your communications, all of that stuff.
Flashlights, yeah.
Yeah, it's. I mean, you're still talking months, but because all of these red dots are offered and run in such a low consumption and can market 5 years, we take a beating.
Mm-hmm. Especially this is so easy to turn off. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I just, that's so irrelevant to me because I never know how long I've had a battery in this. So if I've got it on my gun, and it's probably once a year I change the battery. Like, I don't, what's it cost me? $2?
Yeah.
And like, I don't remember, I don't mark it. That's stupid. 5 years. I'm not going to go out or defend my life on something at 4.5 years. Like, change the fucking battery. Sure. So I don't get it. I hate those CR 2032s or whatever.
Yeah.
They don't last worth a shit. If you can, I mean,
when they're super temperature sensitive as well.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
Well, if you can have it in this, like, it's better than nothing.
Well,
but
yeah,
in this,
and you've got an etched reticle.
Yeah, you have a reticle. Whether
you've always got a reticle,
right?
You know, but in that or in a red dot, your battery dies. You've got nothing. So why wouldn't you change the battery?
Who are the competitors to this? Like if somebody doesn't buy an Eotech, what do they buy? An Aimpoint?
Yeah, Aimpoint. Vortex has a line of red dots.
Oh, I guess Sig has some cheap ones now.
Yep, Holosun has some full size.
Holosun is that Korean, China? What is that?
It's Chinese.
They're Chinese.
Chinese. Do they make any good quality stuff? You think
their quality stuff is comparable? You know, it kind of goes back to that Premier Heritage model, right? They have some products that I would say are as good as some top tier Sig and Vortex and Aimpoint. But they cost the same as the Sig and the Vortex and Aimpoint, so they're comparable inside of that.
They have any good technology you guys don't have?
I give them credit. They, for one, I mean, from a marketing standpoint, I think they've done a really good job because they really have overcome the Chinese stigma. You know, there was always there.
It's interesting, guys. Our age now, it seems like half the consumers and 100% of the vocal people on social media are young enough to be our grandkids. So. I know. So it is very different, but Holosun has done some good marketing.
Yeah, and they do different color reticles. They do some solar stuff. So they do some unique things. Yeah, titanium. But, it's not that hard to make a red dot reflex sight. So there's no technology.
Okay, so they're not innovating technology. They're just taking existing stuff and...
That's always been our struggle.
It really well.
We've always been told, why don't you guys come out with a red dot? Well, we can do that in 6 months. We can have a red dot out there, but we're not a red dot company.
I wonder if that'd be good. I don't know. Maybe you should get in that space.
And who knows, maybe we will, but now that we've finally been given the runway to figure out the next evolution of holography, knowing the advantages that it brings to the fight, we're going to go in that direction first and see how we can reduce it and make a more compelling product that people are looking for: stronger, lighter, faster, better battery life. And if we, in that endeavor, if we come to a point where we're like, it makes sense for our customer for us to offer a red dot, then we will.
Well, I want to applaud you guys. I love the Eotech. I wish it were lighter. But I love it, and if I have to count on it to save my life with someone who might have a gun as well, it's probably my go-to. So thank you guys. I appreciate explaining the whole lawsuit, stupid shit, and me more than anyone understands dealing with the freaking government. So that's interesting, and I hope people will take that away. The 5 to 25, this is incredible. I mean, you guys should be proud.
Yeah, we are.
I mean, I'm not saying you should give Aaron a raise, but if he's going to give me presents and buy me alcohol, you should give him a raise if he was a part of this.
We don't pay him with money anyways.
No, but
Scooby snacks.
But this is super cool, and you get a lit reticle because it was something I didn't care about when the 3 to 18 will pull the Mark 6, 8. What is that?
I think it's the 3 to 18 was the Mark 5, wasn't it?
No.
Oh, no, all the 6X stuff was Mark 6. No, it's Mark 6 because the 6X stuff was Mark 6.
So I loved it, and that's what I learned to shoot on when, that's when CAG had it and everything with the H58 and then the H59. Great scope. It's not much bigger than this, but it's only 3 to 18. But I got to a point when I was probably 42, then I can't see anymore in low light. I need a little dot. And so this is awesome, having part of the reticle be lit. I love this. This is a phenomenal scope. People ask me all the time, like, what should you get for your fix? It's like, well, what are you doing? If you're hunting with it, maybe it's a 1 to 10, it's a 2 to 12, it's a 3 to 15. If you're laying down or you're shooting at a bench, this is a great optic for that gun.
If you're going to run PRS, 5 is a great to kind of scan, dial in tight for partial. I know you don't love them, but the fix works well right. for it,
The fix, but 5 power for that kind of stuff is good. And for me, if I'm just target shooting, if I don't hunt, I don't need a low power, 5 to 25. And people don't realize, probably like you, like I'm a magnification whore. Like if I can get 40, I want 40. The problem is, you and I also being your Cajun ass, and then me being from the South, there's not a whole lot of the year you're shooting past 25 power without Mirage, proper fucking
crazy.
So sometimes it's only 15. That is a great scope that other companies should be chasing.
You know what I think too is on you guys' next giveaway, we'll add one of all the swag here to whatever you guys give away.
Really? We can do that?
Let's plan a giveaway right now.
Let's give something away. I want more than that out of you.
Okay,
all right?
Hold on. What do you want?
Adam's the CEO. What gun you giving away? Are you giving away a gun? I didn't mean to say that.
No.
Now you are.
We certainly can. I think...
What should we give away?
Depending on what you guys are going to do.
We would give away this 5 to 25 if you give away a gun.
Sorry.
All right.
There's one in there?
Yeah,
let's do a...
that's not the one I... No,
all right,
mine's right here.
We're going to give away...
It's got to be a fix.
A 6.5 fix with a jumbo shrimp.
Oh, that's nice. With this 5 to 25?
Yeah.
Done. And a swag pack.
Yep.
It's like $5,000 already.
What do they have to do?
More. That's more than $5,000.
So
that's like $6,000.
So we're going to do a...
Thomas, you probably got this in your back pocket. Speak up.
We're going to post something on our Instagram story with a donate to FPC.
Oh, FPC.
Sticker. Because it tells us who donated on that story post. And whether it's $5 or $100, whatever it is, more the merrier.
Somebody on there some people, like I can afford $100. Some people, they can afford $5, and I think that's awesome. When you get everybody involved, don't need to be a bitch about it.
Yeah, done.